The conference room fell silent as Ambassador Li Na placed the data chip on the table. Her hands were shaking. Admiral Han Day noticed this immediately. In 15 years of knowing her, he had never seen Li Na scared. "They gave us 72 hours, she said quietly. "The Vraxian Empire demands we evacuate Earth and surrender all claims to the Sol system." The room erupted. Generals shouted. Politicians slammed their fists on tables. Admiral Han Day remained silent, his dark eyes fixed on the ambassador. He was 53 years old, gray at the temples, and had commanded Earth's defense fleet for a decade. He had prepared for many scenarios. This was not one of them. "How many ships are they sending?" he asked. Li Na's voice was barely a whisper. 9,700. The room went dead quiet again. Someone laughed nervously. It had to be a joke. Earth's entire defense fleet consisted of 340 ships. They were good ships, fast and well-armed, but 340 against 9,700 was not a battle. It was extermination. "The Council?" Han Day asked. "What did the other species say?" "Nothing." Li Na's face was pale. 2,000 civilizations in the Galactic Council, and not one spoke in our defense. The Vraxians are too powerful. No one wants to anger them over one primitive world. Han Day stood up slowly. He walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Geneva sparkled in the afternoon sun. 14 billion people lived on Earth. Billions more on Mars, Europa, and the outer colonies. All of them would have to leave their homes because the Vraxians wanted the hyperspace nexus that Earth happened to sit on. "No," he said. "Admiral?" Li Na looked confused. "No, we will not evacuate. We will not surrender." Han Day turned to face the room. "Earth belongs to humanity. If the Vraxians want it, they can try to take it." A young general named Kim Sung stood up. "Sir, with respect, this is suicide. 9,700 ships. We cannot win. Then we will lose fighting," Han Day said calmly. "But we will not abandon our home. Not without making them pay for every inch." The vote was unanimous. Earth would stand and fight. The next 3 days moved like a nightmare. Civilian transports launched constantly, carrying children and elderly to Mars colonies. The military stayed behind. Every soldier, every sailor, every pilot volunteered to remain. Han Day had expected no less. In a laboratory deep beneath Geneva, Dr. Kong Yoon worked without sleep. She was 37 years old, brilliant, and currently humanity's best hope. Her project had been theoretical for 5 years. Now she had 72 hours to make it real. "Explain it again," Han Day said, standing in her lab. "In simple terms." Kang Yoon rubbed her tired eyes. "Every faster-than-light drive uses quantum field manipulation. The more advanced the drive, the more dependent it is on stable quantum frequencies. Our drives are simple, crude even. Vraxian drives are incredibly sophisticated. And your minds? They emit a quantum resonance pulse. Think of it like shouting at a specific frequency. Our simple drives barely notice. Their advanced drives will tear themselves apart trying to compensate." She paused. In theory, Han Day repeated. "You have never tested this." "I have never had enough ships to test on. And if I am wrong..." She did not finish the sentence. If she was wrong, Earth would fall in hours. Captain Park Woo arrived at fleet headquarters that evening. He was young for a captain, only 31, but he had a gift for tactical thinking. Han Day trusted him completely. "I want you to understand something," Han Day told him. "We cannot fight them ship to ship. We cannot win a traditional battle. We need to think like humans, not like galactic powers." Park Woo smiled grimly. "You want us to be unpredictable. I want us to be impossible. I want them to underestimate us right until the moment we destroy them. Commander Choi Sun was already at her post in the asteroid belt. She commanded 20 defense stations hidden among the rocks. They were not much, but the belt was vast. Hiding places were everywhere. Let them come, she told her crew. We will teach them that humans do not die easily. The deadline arrived. 72 hours after the ultimatum, the Vraxian fleet appeared at the edge of the Sol system. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 9,700 warships, each one massive and powerful. Every telescope on Earth turned toward the fleet. The images were broadcast worldwide. People stopped in the streets, staring at screens. The Vraxian fleet was so large, it blocked out entire sections of stars. It looked like a solid wall of metal and death approaching their world. War Master Thulvan stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was amused by this situation. The humans were insects challenging an empire. It would take perhaps a day to crush the pathetic fleet, and another day to bombard the planet into submission. Then the real work would begin, mining the hyperspace nexus and making the Vraxian Empire even richer. He opened a communication channel to Earth. Humans, this is your final warning. Evacuate now or be destroyed. You have 12 hours. Admiral Han Day sat in Fleet Command, surrounded by holographic displays showing ship positions, weapon systems, and fleet status. Every captain in the defense fleet could see him. 340 ships against 9,700. He thought about his daughter. She was safe on Mars now. He had made sure of that. He thought about all the children watching from the colonies, all the families who had fled. They deserved a world to come home to. Han Day activated the fleet-wide channel. Every captain, every crew member heard his voice. Captains of Earth, officers and crew of the defense fleet, today we face an enemy that believes we are weak. They believe we are primitive. They believe we will run. He paused. They are wrong. We are human. We do not run. We stand and fight. And we will show them that our home is not for sale at any price. He looked at each face on his screens. Park Woo, Choi Sun, Beek Jin, the young pilot who led the experimental squadrons. Kim Seung, coordinating ground defenses. Engineers, tacticians, soldiers, and scientists. We hold the line, Han Day said quietly, for humanity, for Earth, for every person who ever called this world home. 12 hours later, War Master Thulvan received his answer. A single word, transmitted from Earth on all frequencies. No. The Vraxian fleet began to advance. The war for Earth had begun. The Vraxian fleet moved through space like a storm of metal. 9,700 warships, each one the size of a city block, advancing in perfect formation. They were magnificent and terrifying. War Master Thulvan watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The human fleet was scattered, hiding behind planets and moons. Cowards. Send the vanguard, he ordered. 2,000 ships. Sweep the asteroid belt and eliminate any resistance. Commander Choi Sun watched the approaching enemy ships from her command station buried deep inside asteroid. 243 Ida. Her screens showed 2,000 Vraxian warships entering the belt. They moved slowly, cautiously. Good. They were being careful. All stations, she whispered into her communicator. Wait for them to spread out. Do not fire until they are surrounded by rocks. The Vraxians entered deeper into the asteroid belt. They were looking for targets, scanning every rock. Their ships were huge and powerful, but also slow. The belt was millions of kilometers wide, filled with billions of asteroids. Finding 20 small defense stations would take time. Now, Choi-san said, 20 stations opened fire at once. Rail guns mounted on rotating platforms shot tungsten rounds at incredible speeds. Missiles launched from hidden tubes. The asteroids themselves became weapons as nuclear charges pushed them into collision courses with Vraxian ships. 3 Vraxian destroyers exploded immediately. 5 more took heavy damage. The fleet scattered in confusion, trying to find the sources of attack. But Choi Sun stations were mobile, mounted on small asteroids that could move and hide. They fired and moved, fired and moved. Keep them angry, she told her crews. Make them chase us deeper into the belt. On Earth, Admiral Han Day watched the battle unfold. The asteroid belt engagement was going exactly as planned. The Vraxians were losing ships, getting frustrated. But 2,000 ships was only a fraction of their force. The real battle had not yet begun. Lieutenant Beat Jin sat in the cockpit of his fighter, waiting in the shadow of Ganymede. His squadron consisted of 40 experimental interceptors, fast and deadly. Behind each fighter floated a dozen kamikaze drones, each packed with a nuclear warhead. All fighters, he said calmly. The enemy is approaching Jupiter. Wait until they pass our position, then hit them from behind. The Vraxian main fleet was moving now. 7,000 ships advancing toward the inner system, ignoring the harassment in the asteroid belt. They passed Jupiter's orbit, massive and unstoppable. Attack! Beat Jin shouted. .40 fighters launched. From hiding, accelerating at speeds no Vraxian ship could match. The kamikaze drones shot forward like bullets. The Vraxians barely had time to react before 200 nuclear explosions blossomed across their rear formation. 17 Vraxian ships died instantly. Another 30 took critical damage. The fleet tried to turn, to engage the tiny human fighters, but they were already gone, racing away at maximum thrust. Reform and continue, War Master Thulvan ordered, his voice tight with anger. 20 ships lost, 30 damaged. Against 9,700, it meant nothing, but it stung. These humans were like insects, biting and fleeing. Captain Park Woo commanded a group of 50 Earth frigates hiding in the shadow of Mars. He watched the Vraxian fleet approach. They were perfect in their formations, disciplined and organized. They followed all the rules of proper fleet combat. Park Woo had no intention of following any rules. All ships, scatter pattern 7, he ordered. Make them think we are running in panic. His 50 ships broke formation and fled in different directions, engines blazing. The Vraxians saw this as confirmation of human cowardice. A battle group of 300 ships broke off to chase and destroy the fleeing humans. Park Woo smiled. Now bring them to the trap. His ships led the Vraxians toward Mars orbit. Waiting there, powered down and invisible, were 60 Earth destroyers. The Vraxians never saw them until it was too late. 60 ships opened fire at point-blank range. Missiles and railguns tore into Vraxian hulls. Park Woo's frigates turned and joined the attack. The 300 Vraxian ships tried to fight back, but they were caught in a crossfire. 40 Vraxian ships exploded in the first 30 seconds. 80 more took heavy damage. The rest scattered, breaking formation for the first time. Pursue, Park Woo ordered coldly. Finish them. The battle near Mars lasted 2 hours. When it ended, 163 Vraxian ships were destroyed. Park Woo lost 31 of his own ships. It was a victory, but it cost them dearly. On the Vraxian flagship, War Master Thulvan stared at the casualty reports. 200 ships lost in the asteroid belt and Mars engagements. He had started with 9,700. He still had 9,500. The humans had started with 340. They now had maybe 250. Enough games, he said. All ships advance to Earth orbit. Maximum speed. We will crush them in one battle. Admiral Han Day received the report. The Vraxian fleet was coming, all of it, directly to Earth. This was the moment everything would be decided. Pull back all ships, he ordered. Everyone falls back to Earth orbit. Dr. Kong, are your minds ready? In her laboratory, Dr. Kang Yoon stared at the screens showing 800 quantum resonance mines positioned in orbit around Earth. They were active, armed, and completely untested. If they worked, they would save humanity. If they failed, everyone would die. They are ready, she said. I hope. Captain Park Woo brought his remaining ships back to Earth. Lieutenant Beek Jin and his fighters joined them. Commander Choi Sun abandoned the asteroid belt, her station self-destructing to deny the enemy any technology. Every human ship retreated to Earth's orbit, 251 ships. That was all that remained of Earth's defense fleet. They formed a defensive sphere around their home world. Weapons armed, crews ready to die. The Vraxian fleet arrived like an avalanche. 8,900 ships formed a massive siege sphere around Earth, surrounding the planet completely. War Master Thulven looked at the pathetic human fleet in the center and almost laughed. 251 ships against 8,900. This would be over in minutes. All ships, he broadcast, prepare to commence planetary bombardment. The humans are finished. Admiral Han Day stood in fleet command, watching the enemy ships surround his world. Every screen showed Vraxian warships, thousands of them blocking out the stars. His people looked at him, waiting for orders. He could see fear in their eyes. They were about to die, and they knew it. He thought about Dr. Kang Yoon's mines. Untested, theoretical, humanity's last desperate hope. Dr. Kang, he said quietly, activate the mines. She pressed a single button. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The Vraxian fleet prepared to fire. Human ships braced for impact. Earth waited to die. Then the quantum resonance mines activated, and everything changed. The mines did not explode. They did not fire weapons. They simply emitted a pulse, a specific frequency of quantum energy that spread across Earth's orbit at the speed of light. Human ships felt nothing. Their simple fusion drives barely noticed the pulse. Vraxian ships, with their sophisticated faster-than-light drives, felt everything. 4,300 Vraxian warships exploded simultaneously as their FTL cores overloaded. The quantum pulse destabilized their drives, causing catastrophic failures. Explosions blossomed across Earth's orbit like deadly flowers. Another 2,800 ships went dead in space, their power systems fried by the cascading failures. They floated helplessly, weapons offline, engines cold. In 3 seconds, the Vraxian fleet went from 8,900 ships to 1,600 combat-effective vessels. War Master Thulven stared at his screens in horror. 70% of his fleet was gone. Just gone. The humans had done something impossible. Admiral Han Day did not hesitate. All ships attack. Show no mercy. 251 human ships launched forward into the crippled Vraxian fleet, and the real slaughter began. The space around Earth had become hell. Thousands of Vraxian warships floated dead or dying, their crews trapped inside metal coffins. The quantum mines had worked beyond anyone's wildest hopes. Dr. Kang Yoon collapsed in her laboratory, crying with relief and exhaustion. Her untested theory had just saved 14 billion lives. Captain Park Woo led his squadron into the heart of the crippled Vraxian fleet. His ships moved fast, targeting the disabled vessels with ruthless efficiency. Railguns punched through hulls that could no longer raise shields. Missiles struck ships that could not maneuver or defend themselves. Target their reactors, Park Woo ordered. Make sure they cannot restart. His weapons officer hesitated. Sir, those ships are helpless. Their crews are trapped. Park Woo's voice was ice cold. They came here to kill 14 billion people. Fire. The Earth ships opened fire. Disabled Vraxian vessels exploded one after another. Some tried to broadcast surrender signals, but the humans ignored them. This was not a battle anymore. It was extermination. Engineer Shahai sat in the control room for Earth's orbital defense platforms. These massive weapons had been powered down during the Vraxian approach, playing dead to avoid being targeted first. Now she brought them online, one by one. All platforms active, she reported to Admiral Han Day. Targeting solutions locked. Fire everything, Han Day ordered. 40 orbital platforms opened fire simultaneously. Each platform carried 8 railguns and 40 missile tubes. Tungsten rounds traveling at a significant fraction of light speed tore through Vraxian hulls like paper. Missiles swarmed the crippled ships in waves of nuclear fire. The Vraxians, who were still combat-capable, tried to fight back. 1,600 ships attempted to reform their battle lines and engage the human fleet. But they were scattered, confused, and surrounded by the wreckage of their own dead ships. Lieutenant Beek Jin led his fighter squadron through the chaos. His pilots were exhausted, but determined. They had seen friends die in the earlier battles. Now they had a chance for revenge, and they took it. "Target those cruisers," Beek Jin called out, marking 6 Vraxian ships on his tactical display. "Hit them hard." Fighters dove through the debris field, dodging wreckage and returned fire. Their kamikaze drones launched in swarms. Nuclear detonations lit up the darkness. 3 Vraxian cruisers exploded. 2 more took critical damage and began to drift. On the Vraxian flagship, War Master Thelvin finally understood the truth. He had not come to conquer a primitive world. He had walked into a trap designed by a species far more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had realized. "All ships retreat." He broadcast on all frequencies. "Fall back to the outer system. We need to regroup." But retreating was not simple. The quantum field from the mines still affected the entire inner solar system. Vraxian ships could not use their faster-than-light drives without risking immediate destruction. They would have to travel to the outer system on slower-than-light engines, which would take hours. Hours while the humans hunted them. Admiral Han Day saw the Vraxians beginning to retreat. "Do not let them escape. All ships pursue. Any ship that tries to flee dies." The battle transformed into a running fight. Vraxian ships tried to flee toward Jupiter and Saturn, hoping to get far enough from Earth to safely engage their FTL drives. Human ships chased them, attacking relentlessly. Captain Park Woo organized his forces into hunter groups. Each group consisted of 10 to 15 ships working together to isolate and destroy fleeing Vraxians. It was brutal, efficient, and merciless. "Blue Squadron, there are 12 enemy ships heading toward Jupiter," he called out. "Cut them off." "Red Squadron, I see a damaged battleship trying to hide behind Earth's moon. Kill it." "Gold Squadron, form up on me. We are going after that group near the debris field." The space around Earth became a graveyard. Thousands of ships, mostly Vraxian, but too many human as well, floated in pieces. Bodies drifted in the vacuum. Escape pods launched from dying ships, but there was no rescue coming. Not for the Vraxians. Commander Choi Sun arrived from the asteroid belt with her remaining forces. She had lost most of her stations, but 12 had survived. She brought them to Earth orbit and immediately joined the attack. "There is a cluster of disabled ships near the northern pole," Admiral Han Day told her. "They are trying to repair their systems." "Stop them." Choi Sun smiled grimly. "With pleasure." Her stations positioned themselves around the disabled Vraxian vessels and opened fire at close range. The Vraxians could not fight back. Their weapons were offline, their shields down. They died without firing a shot. 6 hours into the battle, the quantum field began to dissipate. Dr. Kang Yoon had estimated it would last about that long. The Vraxian ships that remained intact immediately tried to engage their FTL drives and escape. "Stop them," Han Day ordered, but it was too late. 400 Vraxian ships managed to activate their drives and jump away toward the outer system. They escaped Earth orbit, but they were not safe yet. The humans were coming for them. Park Woo led the pursuit. His ships could not match Vraxian FTL speed, but they did not need to. The fleeing Vraxians were damaged, low on fuel, and heading in a predictable direction. They would have to stop eventually to regroup. "All ships maximum thrust," Park Woo ordered. "We follow them to Jupiter and beyond if necessary. None of them leave this system alive." On Earth, people watched the battle through cameras and telescopes. They saw the sky filled with explosions and debris. They saw human ships chasing the invaders who had come to destroy their world. Children watched in schools. Families gathered around screens. Everyone understood they were witnessing something historic. The remaining Vraxian ships fled through the inner solar system with human forces in pursuit. Near Mars, Lieutenant Beat Jin's fighters caught up with a group of 30 Vraxian destroyers. The destroyers tried to fight, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. "Swarm them," Beat Jin ordered. Fighters and drones surrounded the Vraxian ships. Nuclear warheads detonated at close range. Within minutes, all 30 destroyers were destroyed. Beat Jin had lost 8 fighters in the attack. He marked their names in his memory and continued the chase. Engineer Sha He worked to clear Earth's orbit of debris. Thousands of wrecked ships threatened satellites and stations. She coordinated teams to push the largest pieces into controlled decays, sending them into Earth's atmosphere to burn up. "How many of our ships are left?" she asked Admiral Han Day. Han Day checked his reports. Of the 340 ships that had started the battle, only 143 remained combat effective. Another 56 were damaged but repairable. 141 had been destroyed, their crews lost. "We paid a terrible price," he said quietly. "But we won, did we?" Cha He pointed at the tactical display showing Vraxian ships fleeing toward Jupiter. "They are still running." Han Day's expression hardened. "Not for long. Park Woo will finish this." In the outer system, War Master Thulvan gathered the survivors of his once mighty fleet. Of 9,700 ships, he had fewer than 400 left. It was the greatest military disaster in Vraxian history. He would be executed when he returned home, assuming he survived long enough to return. "How many humans are pursuing us?" he asked his tactical officer. "Approximately 80 ships, sir. But they are spread out, hunting in packs." 80 ships. Thulvan had 400. Finally, the numbers were in his favor again. Maybe he could salvage something from this nightmare. Maybe he could destroy the human pursuers and escape with some honor intact. "All ships, prepare for battle," he ordered. "We will turn and fight. We will show these humans that the Vraxian Empire does not run." Captain Park Woo received the report that the Vraxian fleet had stopped fleeing and was forming battle lines near Jupiter. He smiled coldly. They wanted a conventional fleet engagement. Perfect. "All ships form attack formation Delta," he ordered. "Let us finish what we started." The two fleets approached each other near Jupiter's orbit. 400 Vraxian ships against 80 human vessels. By traditional military thinking, the Vraxians should win easily. But nothing about this battle had been traditional. Park Woo had no intention of fighting fair. He had learned from Admiral Han Day that victory came from thinking like a human, not like a galactic power. As the fleets closed, he gave his final orders. "All ships, execute Plan Omega." The human ships scattered in 80 different directions, abandoning all formation. The Vraxians tried to target them, but found themselves shooting at empty space. The humans were too fast, too unpredictable. Then the kamikaze drones arrived. Thousands of them, launched from hidden positions throughout Jupiter's moons. The Vraxians had never detected them because they had been placed there weeks ago, before the war even started. Admiral Han Day had prepared for every possibility. Nuclear fire consumed the Vraxian fleet. Ships exploded, collided, broke apart. Park Wu's forces attacked from all sides, while the Vraxians died in confusion and terror. War Master Thulven watched his fleet die and knew the battle was over. He had failed completely. The battle near Jupiter raged for 3 brutal hours. Captain Park Wu commanded his 80 ships with cold precision, hunting the Vraxian fleet through Jupiter's orbital space. The kamikaze drone attack had destroyed 150 Vraxian ships in the opening minutes. Now his forces finished the survivors. Commander Yang Yang sat in the intelligence center aboard Park Wu's flagship. She was 32 years old, and before the war, she had been a communications specialist. Now she was humanities expert on Vraxian military protocols, because she had spent 3 days doing nothing but intercepting and decoding their transmissions. "Captain," she said, studying her screens, "the Vraxians are trying to organize a retreat to Saturn. They think they can regroup there and make a run for Neptune, where they can safely engage FTL drives." Park Wu looked at the tactical display. 230 Vraxian ships were fleeing deeper into the solar system, trying to escape. They were damaged, low on ammunition, and demoralized. But they were still dangerous. "How are they organizing?" he asked. Yang Yang smiled. "Through standard military channels. They keep broadcasting on encrypted frequencies, trying to coordinate their fleet elements. Can you disrupt it? Better than that. I can feed them false information. I can tell different parts of their fleet to go to different locations. I can make them think help is coming from their empire. I can make them scattered and confused." Park Wu nodded. "Do it. Split their forces. Make them easy targets." Yang Yang went to work. She had broken the Vraxian encryption codes early in the battle, and now she used that knowledge like a weapon. False orders went out on Vraxian command channels. Retreat coordinates that led ships into ambushes. Damage reports that made commanders think their situation was better or worse than reality. The fleeing Vraxian fleet began to break apart. Some ships headed toward Saturn. Others went toward Uranus. A few tried to hide in the asteroid belt between Jupiter and Saturn. They were no longer a unified force. They were lost, scattered prey. Lieutenant Li Mi led one of the pursuit squadrons. She was 26 years old and had become an ace pilot during the battle for Earth. Her squadron consisted of 12 fighters, and they had been hunting Vraxians for 8 hours straight. "Contact," her sensors officer called out. 15 enemy ships heading toward Saturn, damaged and moving slow. Li Mi checked her fuel and ammunition. Both were running low. Her pilots were exhausted. But the job was not finished yet. "All fighters, attack formation," she ordered. "We hit them fast and get out." Her squadron dove toward the fleeing Vraxians. The enemy ships tried to defend themselves, but they were too slow and too damaged. Li Mi's fighters tore through them like sharks attacking wounded prey. Nuclear missiles and railgun rounds destroyed 9 ships in the first pass. The 6 survivors scattered. Li Mi's squadron pursued them individually, hunting each one down. It took 2 hours, but eventually all 15 Vraxian ships were destroyed. Li Mi had lost 1 fighter in the attack. 11 fighters returning to base, she reported to Park Wu. Mission complete. Throughout the outer solar system, similar battles were happening. Human ships hunted Vraxians in small groups, using speed and knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. The asteroid fields between planets became killing zones. Jupiter's moons provided cover for ambushes. Saturn's rings hid human ships waiting for fleeing enemies. Sub-Commander Vorthok commanded a group of 23 Vraxian ships that had survived the Jupiter battle. He was trying to reach Saturn, hoping to regroup with other survivors. He was also beginning to understand that his entire fleet had been destroyed by a species the Vraxian Empire had considered primitive. "Sir, we are receiving new orders," his communications officer reported. "Fleet Command says there is a rally point near Saturn's moon Titan. Other survivors are gathering there." Vorthok felt relief. Maybe they could assemble enough ships to make one coordinated FTL jump to safety. Set course for Titan. Maximum speed. His ships approached Saturn 3 hours later. The rally point coordinates led them to Titan's orbital space. Vorthok searched for other Vraxian vessels, but saw nothing. "Where are the other ships?" he asked. His sensor officer's face went pale. "Sir, I am detecting human ships. Multiple contacts surrounding us." Vorthok understood immediately. The orders had been fake. The humans had led him into a trap. Captain Park Wu watched the 23 Vraxian ships realize they had been deceived. He had 30 human vessels positioned around Titan, waiting in perfect ambush positions. Commander Yang Young's false orders had worked perfectly. "All ships open fire," he ordered. The Vraxians never had a chance. Caught between Saturn and Titan, with no room to maneuver, they were destroyed in minutes. Sub-Commander Vorthok's ship exploded in a nuclear fireball, adding one more piece of debris to Saturn's orbit. Admiral Han Day remained in Earth's orbit, coordinating the pursuit and managing the cleanup operations. The space around Earth was slowly being cleared of wreckage. Damaged human ships were being repaired. The wounded were being treated. The dead were being counted. "How many did we lose?" he asked Engineer Cha He. She checked her reports carefully. 141 ships destroyed completely. 56 damaged but repairable. 143 still combat effective. Total crew casualties are estimated at 42,000 personnel. 42,000 dead. Han Day felt the weight of every single death. Each one was someone's son or daughter, someone's parent or spouse. They had died defending Earth, and he would remember them all. And the Vraxians? Estimated 9,400 ships destroyed so far. "We are still hunting the survivors." Near Uranus, Warmaster Thulvan gathered the last remnants of his fleet. He had 94 ships left, damaged and barely functional. The mighty Vraxian armada that had come to conquer Earth was now reduced to fewer than 100 vessels running for their lives. "How long until we can safely engage FTL drives?" he asked his navigator. "We need to reach Neptune's orbit, sir." "Approximately 6 hours at our current speed." 6 hours. Thulvan wondered if they would survive 6 more hours. The humans were everywhere, hunting with terrifying efficiency. All ships tight formation. "We stay together and watch each other's backs." His fleet limped toward Neptune, desperately hoping to escape. Behind them, human ships followed like wolves tracking wounded prey. Captain Park Wu led 50 human vessels in pursuit of the main Vraxian group. He had combined forces from multiple squadrons for this final attack. Intelligence showed that Warmaster Thulvan himself was leading the fleeing ships. Park Wu wanted him specifically. "We intercept them near Uranus," he told his captains. "No survivors. No mercy." Lieutenant Li Mi's fighter squadron joined the pursuit. So did remnants of Lieutenant Beek Jin's forces. Commander Choi Sun brought her remaining defense stations, reconfigured as mobile attack platforms. Every available human ship capable of making the journey joined the hunt. The battle near Uranus was the final engagement of the war. 94 Vraxian ships tried to fight their way through 50 human vessels and escape to Neptune. It was vicious close-range combat, ships ramming each other when ammunition ran out, crews fighting with everything they had left. War Master Thulvan's flagship took 3 direct hits from rail guns. His bridge exploded. He died instantly, never knowing that his invasion force had been reduced to just 17 ships. Those 17 ships broke through the human lines and ran for Neptune. They were damaged, some barely functional. But they made it to the outer edge of the solar system, where FTL drives could safely engage. Captain Park Woo chased them all the way to Neptune's orbit, but he could not stop them in time. The 17 Vraxian ships engaged their faster-than-light drives and jumped away, disappearing into deep space. Park Woo stared at the empty space where they had been. 17 ships out of 9,700. 94 ships had fought at Uranus. His forces had destroyed 77. 17 escaped. Let them go, he said quietly. Let them tell their empire what happened here. Admiral Han Day received the final report. The pursuit was over. 9,683 Vraxian ships destroyed. 17 escaped. Earth's total losses were 300, 12 ships out of the original 340. He stood in fleet command and looked at the casualty lists. So many names, so many dead. But Earth still stood. Humanity had survived. Send a message to the colonies, he ordered. Tell them the war is over. Tell them we won. Tell them Earth is still ours. Throughout the solar system, human ships began the long journey home. They passed through debris fields that stretched from Earth to Neptune, the remains of the largest battle in galactic history. Every human ship that passed the wreckage marked it in their navigation charts as a memorial to those who died. On Earth, people celebrated in the streets. 14 billion humans looked up at a sky that was still theirs and wept with joy and relief. They had faced extinction and survived. They had been told to run and instead stood their ground. Dr. Kong Yoon sat in her laboratory, exhausted and overwhelmed. Her quantum mines had saved humanity, but the price had been terrible. She thought about the 42,000 humans who died and the tens of thousands of Vraxians, all because of a weapon she had created. Admiral Han Day found her there hours later. You saved us, he said gently. Never forget that. Without you, everyone would be dead. She nodded but did not speak. The weight of what she had done would stay with her forever. In deep space, 17 Vraxian ships limped toward home. The 17 Vraxian warships that escaped the Sol system arrived at the Vraxian Empire's nearest military outpost 6 days after the battle. They were barely functional, held together by emergency repairs and the desperate will of their crews. When they transmitted their initial report, the base commander thought it was a joke. Say that again, the commander demanded. The senior surviving officer, a ship captain named Kelvin, repeated his report. The 27th Fleet is destroyed. 9,683 ships lost. Only 17 survived. The humans defeated us. The base commander immediately sent the report up the chain of command. Within hours, it reached the Vraxian High Council on the Empire's home world. Within a day, every major civilization in the galaxy had heard rumors of what happened at Earth. Nobody believed it. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session 1 week after the battle. 2,000 civilizations sent representatives to the massive station that orbited the Council's neutral headquarters world. Ambassador Li Na traveled there on behalf of Earth, along with a security detail and several data specialists. She walked into the council chamber and felt 2,000 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Some looked curious. Some looked skeptical. Some looked hostile. The Vraxian ambassador looked furious. High Counselor Ixtar, a tall being with silver skin and 3 eyes, called the session to order. Ixtar was over 200 years old and had led the council for decades. Nothing surprised them anymore, or so they thought. We have convened to address claims made by the Vraxian Empire and by Earth regarding recent events in the Sol system, Ixtar said formally. Ambassador Li Na, you may present Earth's account. Li Na stood and activated her datapad. Holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing sensor recordings from Earth's defense fleet. 1 week ago, the Vraxian Empire sent 9,700 warships to conquer Earth, she began. They demanded we evacuate our home world and surrender all claims to our system. We refused. What followed was the largest space battle in recorded galactic history. She played the recordings. The Council watched in silence as the Vraxian fleet appeared at the edge of the Sol system. They watched the battles in the asteroid belt and near Mars. They watched the quantum mines activate and destroy thousands of Vraxian ships in seconds. They watched human vessels hunt the survivors through the solar system. The Vraxian ambassador stood up angrily. This is propaganda. Fabricated footage designed to make Earth look powerful. Then explain where your 27th fleet is, Li Na replied calmly. You sent 9,700 ships to Earth. Only 17 returned. Where are the rest? The Vraxian ambassador had no answer. The sensor logs from the 17 surviving ships matched Earth's recordings exactly. The battle had happened exactly as Li Na described. Ixtar looked at the Vraxian ambassador with cold eyes. Your empire attacked a member world of this council without provocation. 9,700 ships. And you lost. The chamber erupted in noise. 2,000 civilizations began talking at once. Ambassadors argued with each other. Some laughed in disbelief. Some looked terrified. The idea that a species everyone considered primitive had destroyed a major power's fleet was impossible. But the evidence was undeniable. On Earth, Admiral Han Day met with the newly formed Earth Defense Council. The council consisted of military leaders, scientists, and political representatives from every nation. They had one task: ensure Earth was never threatened again. We need to build more ships, said Fleet Admiral Ro Quan, who had been promoted to overall command of Earth's military. Many more ships. Han Day nodded. I agree, but we also need better ships. The quantum mines won us this battle, but we cannot rely on one weapon. Dr. Kang Yoon attended the meeting remotely from her laboratory. I am already working on improvements to the quantum resonance technology. I also have ideas for other defensive systems. Will you share this technology with other species? Someone asked. Kang Yoon's answer was immediate. No, the quantum mines are Earth's deterrent. If everyone has them, they become useless. We keep this technology secret. The Council voted unanimously to keep the quantum technology classified at the highest level. Earth would share some defensive innovations with allied species, but the quantum mines would remain solely in human hands. Work began immediately on expanding Earth's fleet. Shipyards in Earth orbit, on Mars, and throughout the asteroid belt began construction of new vessels. The design incorporated lessons learned from the battle. Faster engines, better armor, more versatile weapons systems. The new ships would be called the Han Day class, named after the admiral who had saved humanity. At the Galactic Council, the debate continued for 3 days. Finally, Ixtar called for order. The evidence is clear, the High Counselor announced. Earth successfully defended itself against Vraxian aggression. The question now is what happens next. The Vraxian ambassador tried to speak, but Ixtar silenced them with a gesture. Your empire has violated council law by attacking a member world. Your fleet was destroyed not through trickery, but through superior tactics and weapons innovation. Earth has proven itself capable of defending its interests. Ixtar turned to Li Na. The Council recognizes Earth as a major galactic power. You are granted a permanent seat on the Security Council, with full voting rights. The chamber fell silent. A permanent Security Council seat was reserved for the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Only 12 species had ever held such positions. Now Earth was the 13th. Lee nay stood and bowed. Earth accepts this honor and responsibility. Over the following weeks, dozens of alien ambassadors visited Earth. Some came to congratulate humanity on their victory. Some came seeking trade agreements. Some came hoping to form military alliances. Captain Park Woo, promoted to Vice Admiral, met with several of these delegations. They asked him about Earth's tactics, about the quantum mines, about how such a small fleet had defeated such a massive force. "We fought for our home," he told them simply. "When you fight for survival, you find ways to win." The Vraxian Empire faced internal collapse. 3 client species that had been conquered by the Vraxians decades ago saw the destruction of the 27th Fleet and rebelled. The Vraxian military, humiliated and weakened, could not suppress the uprisings. The Empire's territory began to shrink. Within the Empire itself, political factions fought over who was responsible for the disaster. War Master Thulvin was dead, but his superiors were not. Trials were held. Executions followed. The Vraxian Empire would survive, but it would never be the same. Commander Choi Sun retired from military service and became an instructor at Earth's new military academy. She taught young officers about asymmetric warfare, about using creativity when facing superior forces, about never giving up. Her first lecture began with a simple question: how do you defeat an enemy with 9,700 ships when you only have 340? The students thought hard, proposing various strategies. Finally, Choi Sun smiled. "You make them think you are weak. You make them overconfident. Then you hit them with something they never expected. You fight like a human, not like a galactic power." Lieutenant Beek Jin and Lieutenant Li Mi both received promotions and medals for their actions during the battle. They became celebrities on Earth and across human colonies. Children played games pretending to be fighter pilots hunting Vraxian ships, but both pilots struggled with nightmares about the battle. They had killed thousands of people, even if those people had come to destroy Earth. The weight of that stayed with them. Engineer Cha Hay led the effort to clear the debris field around Earth. It took 6 months to remove the largest pieces and another year to clean up the smaller fragments. The debris became a resource, the advanced Vraxian technology salvaged and studied. Earth scientists learned a great deal from examining the wrecked ships. Some of the debris was kept as memorial. A piece of hull from a destroyed Vraxian flagship was placed in the Earth Defense Museum, along with pieces from human ships that had been lost. The museum became a place where people could honor those who died defending. EARTH Dr. Kang Yoon continued her research, but refused all public appearances. She had saved humanity, but the burden of creating such a destructive weapon haunted her. She worked alone in her laboratory, developing new defensive technologies and hoping she would never have to see them used. Admiral Han Dae retired 6 months after the battle. He was 54 years old and looked 70. The stress of commanding Earth's defense had aged him terribly. He returned to his home in South Korea and spent his days with his daughter, who had returned from Mars. People recognized him everywhere he went. They wanted to thank him, to shake his hand, to hear stories about the battle. He was always polite, but kept his distance. The weight of 42,000 dead crew members never left him. On the first anniversary of the battle, Earth held a memorial service. 14 billion people paused to remember the 312 ships that had been destroyed and the 42,000 people who died. Their names were read aloud in ceremonies around the world. A monument was erected in Earth orbit at the exact location where the quantum mines had first activated. It was a simple structure, a ring of metal with the names of every ship and every crew member who had died. It floated in space where the battle had been fiercest, a permanent reminder. The inscription read, "They came to take our home. They learned why Earth belongs to humanity." 9,700 came. 17 left. None will forget. Across the galaxy, species that had ignored Earth or dismissed humanity as primitive now watched carefully. Trade delegations arrived. Defense pacts were offered. The major powers that had remained silent during the Vraxian ultimatum now competed for Earth's friendship. Fleet Admiral Ro Kwan oversaw the construction of Earth's new defense fleet. 2,000 ships were under construction, all equipped with quantum mine technology. Earth would never be caught unprepared again. "We are building a fleet that could defeat any invasion force," Ro Kwan told the Defense Council. "Not because we want to conquer anyone, but because we will never again beg for help that does not come." Ambassador Li Na worked at the Galactic Council to reshape humanity's role in galactic politics. Earth voted on security measures, trade regulations, and diplomatic disputes. The other council members learned quickly that humans did not follow expected patterns. They were unpredictable, creative, and absolutely unwilling to be threatened. 3 civilizations that had voted against helping Earth during the Vraxian crisis issued formal apologies. Li Na accepted the apologies, but made it clear that Earth would remember who stood with them and who did not dot in classrooms across Earth and human colonies. Children learned about the Battle of Sol. They studied the tactics, the technology, and the courage of those who fought. The battle became part of human identity, a defining moment when humanity proved they belonged among the stars. "We are not the strongest species," teachers told their students. "We are not the oldest or most advanced, but we are human. And that means when we are pushed, we push back harder." The 17 Vraxian ships that survived became famous throughout the galaxy. Their crews were interviewed, their stories told and retold. They spoke of the terror of watching their fleet destroyed, of the relentless human pursuit, of barely escaping with their lives. "They fought like demons," one survivor said. "We thought we were conquering primitives. Instead, we walked into a trap designed by the most dangerous species in the galaxy." 5 years after the battle, Earth had become one of the galaxy's major powers. The defense fleet numbered 2,500 ships. Human colonies expanded throughout the Sol system and beyond. Trade with other species flourished, but Earth never forgot the lesson of that desperate battle. A small force had defeated a massive fleet through ingenuity, courage, and absolute determination. Humanity would carry that lesson forward. In the Earth Defense Museum, next to the debris from the battle, a simple display showed the numbers. 9,700 Vraxian warships attacked. 17 survived. 340 human ships defended. 28 survived to the end. Below the numbers, a single sentence: "This is what happens when you threaten Earth." The galaxy had learned that lesson well, and they would never forget it.